Good day everyone. Today we will discuss one of the most important topic in SSE 112 in the descriptive title of Basic of School Management and Administration. In Lesson 3, Fundamental Principles of Administrations and Supervision, we'll discuss a general input or knowledge about how this school or a certain organization functions accordingly to their principles. First, let us discuss what is principles. When I heard the word principles, a quote states that principiorum non est ratio pops in my mind. It is a Latin phrase meaning there is no need to argue or explain of something because they are proven and accepted as truth, such as fire is hot, and ice is cold, and rock is hard, which all falls to the common sense principles of G.E. Moore. They said that principles are descriptive or predictive, but not prescriptive. They describe how variables relates to one another and predict what will happen when they interact. This means that principles explains to us what or how things happen or help anticipate the future outcomes, but it does not tell us of what we should do or it does command our action. Principles don't say you should do this. This is the most effective solutions. Rather, they just say this is what happens. Sense of ideas found in Aristotelian philosophy in metaphysics and physics said that a principle is what makes something what it is and direct how it behaves, which means every being or things operate according to certain fundamental truths or principles that guide them. A tree, for example, grows according to biological principles like photosynthesis, and a human act based on personal beliefs or values and goals. Those are their guiding principles. The same goes with school administrations and supervisions. They are guided by certain principles that they apply in the performance of their function, and these principles give them guidance to ensure smooth operation of the school. According to businessdictionary.com, principles are as fundamental norms, rules, or values that represent what is desirable and positive for a person, group, organization, or community that help in determining the rightfulness or wrongfulness of its actions. Basically, this means that an individual or group are guided by an internal standards of what is desirable actions to take. The dictionary.com also gives us the following definition of principle. First to that is that a principle is an accepted or professed rule of action or conduct. This means that a principle is a guiding rule or standard that people follow and how they act or behave. It tells us how we ought to behave, either accepted or followed by a society or group, or professed, that is claimed by a person or organization. Second says that a principle is a fundamental, primary, or general law or truth from which others are derived. This means that a principle is the root or starting point of something. This definition is close to the archaic study of Aristotle that talks about first principles as the fundamental causes or starting point of all things. Third says that a fundamental doctrine or tenet. This is another way to define principle in a religious way, meaning principle is a fundamental truth or belief that a person, group, or religion is built upon. It is not just a casual idea because it is something central and essential to the system of a person or an organization. In short, a principle in this definition can be a core belief or tenet or a formal teaching, a doctrine that serves as a foundation of a system of thought, faith, or behavior. Fourth says that Principle is an adapted rule or method for application in action. This means that a principle is a rule or method that people put into practice to help them act in a consistent, purposeful, or ethical way, such as principles in business. Customer is always right. It is an adapted rules of how employees interact with clients, or in leadership, lead by example. A leader uses this principle as a daily approach to influence others through action. The same goes with princesses that are guided with principles like this or adapt for their actions such as using utensils and alike. Therefore, we can say that the fundamental principles of administration and supervision guides the school in its day-to-day operation, while principles are the guiding doctrines that guides the action of those who are supposedly guided. There are principles that is not applicable to other groups but is perfectly suited on another. Principles are the core values or rules that guide how school leaders should act and make decisions. That is why it is really required for a school or organization to wisely think of which principle to follow, whether it is effective for them or not, in a wisest decision or choice. Because these principles are not just suggestions but standards or conduct that ensure education is effective, ethical, and well managed. These principles help fulfill their roles properly, such as attaining the school objective and improve the teaching and learning process. Now let's proceed to the role of principals in school administration and supervision. First is that principals govern the practice of modern techniques of school administration and supervision. This means that principals serve as the guiding framework for applying modern tools, strategies, and methods in managing schools. They ensure that new techniques are aligned with sound values, not just trends. For example, a school introduces digital learning platforms like Google Classroom, and the principle of equity ensures all students, including those without home internet, are provided with printed modules or offline access, so no one is left behind. Second is that principals help school administrators and supervisors in evaluating the different techniques, procedures, and systems to be used for effective school administration and supervision. For example, is the principles that provide criteria or standards to judge whether certain approaches are effective, efficient, and ethical. In this way, it prevents random decision making by offering a basis for evaluation. For example, a principal is evaluating whether to adopt new disciplinary system, and the principle of fairness helps determine if the principal or if the system respects students' rights, the staffs, and the teachers, and applies consequences consistently across all grade levels or all of the part of the school. Third is the principals aid school administrators and supervisors in evaluating school administration and supervision programs beyond individual techniques. Principals also help in assessing overall programs and policies, checking if they meet the educational goals and needs of the school and the community. For example, is when assessing a school-based feeding program, the principle of student welfare is to measure its effectiveness not just in reducing hunger, but in improving attendance and academic focus. Meaning to say, the school here is not just focusing on what they can offer to the community, but it must be a win-win situation for the school and the community. The fourth one is that the principals avoid trial and error approaches to school administration and supervision. With clear principles in place, leaders don't have to rely on guesswork or risky experimentation. Instead, they can make informed decisions based on proven guidelines. For example, instead of randomly hiring consultants for teacher training, a school follows the principle of professional competence. It is selecting trainers with proven expertise and alignment with the school's teaching philosophy.